Hey everyone, welcome to Fluent For Real. If you want to boost your career and you need English to do that, you are in the right place. Take your English from okay, intermediate to advanced here at Fluent For Real. I'm Renata, welcome to our channel. In this video, we'll be aiming at one big mistake that a lot of students make that interferes directly in the student's capacity of speaking advanced English regardless of having or not having an aptitude for languages. And that mistake is watching movies, videos, listening to podcasts, audiobooks, reading ebooks. But how come these are bad habits? You ask me. Let me explain why. Do you have a good or a bad memory of your high school years? Some people remember those years as being a time of misery and pain. Others have amazing memories of their high school years. Some people loved math, some people tolerated math, some people hated math. I have always liked math a lot, even though I am interested in other areas like languages. I love design too, I love photography. But I did really like math when I was in high school. Maybe what I am about to tell you doesn't apply to geniuses or gifted people, but to most people, learning math necessarily means going through math exercises. Can you imagine going through 3 years of high school or even one trimester, listening to your teacher and observing her? Let's call her Lucy. I used to have a great math teacher called Lucilla, so we'll call this fictional teacher Lucy. MC was also Lucilla's student. She knows who I'm talking about. So let's say Lucy is talking about analytical geometry, equations and inequalities, probabilities. She's explaining all those very dense theories, going over to the board, solving a problem right there in front of everyone, explaining step by step what she's doing, why she's doing it, and reaching a conclusion. At the end of the whole explanation, she turns to the group and she asks everyone, "Do you guys understand? Do you understand? Is everything okay?" And you respond, "Yeah, sure, I got it. Perfect. Easy, crystal clear, I totally got it." And you feel thrilled to have Lucy as your teacher because she's the best teacher. She made something very complex and dense feel and look like something very easy and simple. You were able to follow what she was saying and how she was explaining it to the point where you really feel confident about that topic. You go home feeling like you really learned it. But then you go home and that's the end of it. You're not going to study that topic at home. You're not going to practice or do any exercises on your own. You're going to keep doing that for one trimester, 1 year, 3 years. You go to class, you observe her, figure out the problems, you watch her, find the solutions, and then you have a test. When you need to take that test yourself without her guidance, without observing her do it, you just need to do it on your own. Something like this. Do you really feel like you will be ready to do it on your own without having practiced before, without having done it yourself, without having stumbled along the way and given yourself the room for questions, for mixing up ideas or theories or steps along the way? Chances are you are not going to succeed unless you are a genius or extremely gifted, as I mentioned before. Well, but I am sure I can speak for MC. She can't because we were high school friends and I remember we used to study a lot. And the reason why that happens, according to some neuroscientists, is because when we learn something passively, when we read a text, when we watch a video, when we watch a class, our brain starts creating new connections between the brain cells. But those connections start off as weak. They are there, but they're still very weak. How can you make those connections strong and how can you make them last in your brain? You need to go back to that information over and over. And the longer it takes you to review that information, to practice that, the weaker the connections will be. If you learn something on Monday, ideally you should go back to that throughout the week. Review that topic to keep those connections strong. Otherwise, you won't be able to recall, to repeat what you learned, to really learn that information. You will have understood it, but if someone asks you, you can't answer a question. If someone asks you, what did she say, what happened in class, what did you learn, you won't be able to recall that, to get that information, process that information, and put it out there. Those new connections need time and effort to get stronger. Ever since we were kids, everyone is telling us that we should not leave things to the last minute, that we should not cram, that we're not supposed to go one night before the test and study everything. But I guess many of us think that that's the case because we won't have enough time to study all the information that we learned in a month or two in just one night. That's not the only issue. The issue is your brain connections will be much weaker after a month than they were the next day. So what you study one day before the test will not be nearly as productive as it would have been if you had studied little by little throughout that month. And that's not me saying, it's neuroscientists, baby. One technique that neuroscientists suggest is the active recall. You read a text attentively, or you watch a video, you watch a class attentively, and you write down the main ideas in that text. Then right after you finish that, you will try to actively recall that information, which means you will try to speak to yourself out loud or not, everything that you wrote down, which means the main ideas in that class or in that text. Since speaking English is the hardest ability to acquire, I would suggest that you try this technique of the active recall by speaking out loud, not just in your head. I myself learn a lot better if I try to re-explain it to myself out loud. I actually do that all the time and it really helps me. And speaking of re-explaining things, when I was in high school, I used to like helping my friends out whenever they were struggling with some kind of content. And I always felt that at the end of the day, whenever I had helped a friend with some kind of problem they had by explaining it to them, going back to everything that I had learned myself, instead of just helping them out, I felt that I had better control over that content than I did before. Teaching does that to you. When you are teaching, you are actually practicing that active recall technique 150%. I feel like that. I feel like whenever I am studying to be the best teacher I can be and I need to pass that information on to you guys, I feel that I learned that information so much better, and it's for good, you know, it's something that I'm not gonna forget. Going back one step, I mentioned something about reading the text and watching the video or watching the class attentively. When I was in high school, I didn't have a smartphone that would distract me from what I needed to do. I could barely touch my phone. If I touched my phone, my teacher would probably be really angry at me. Nowadays, our phones are a big distraction. Inside that little device is your boss, your significant other, your family, memes, inside jokes, WhatsApp groups, entertainment, and all kinds of distractions. My recommendation is, if you can, leave your phone as far away from you as possible. And I'm not just saying that, you know, because I need to do that to be more productive. I need to keep my phone away from me. So I feel you. At the beginning of the video, I mentioned that watching videos, listening to podcasts, and reading books is not a good habit. Why not? Because it's not a good habit on its own. They are not good habits on their own. And I see a lot of people believing that that is enough, and they don't understand why they don't get out of that zone of the basic or the intermediate if they spend hours and hours and hours of their lives watching videos and listening to podcasts. So about that, I have 2 words for you: writing and speaking. That's 3, but you got it. Whenever someone meets me for the first time or they find out that I'm an English teacher, one of the first things they say is, they tell me, oh, you know what, I really need to study English and improve my English, but my listening is great. I understand everything people say around me. When I travel, when I watch a movie, it's not a problem. But when I have to speak, I just can't. Oh, I'm used to reading articles in English. It's not a problem for me at all. You know, all the vocabulary in my area, I'm okay with it. But I can't really write. And whenever I have to write an email, I struggle, I stumble, I mix things up. A lot of people tell me that they understand everything they hear, but they can't produce English, they can't speak, and they can't write well enough, or not as well as they would like to. Are you that person? If you are, my friend, don't you worry, I got your back. That's why you are here. And that's why I'm here. No worries. If that's your case, you should probably know that you have a lot of input, but you have little, not enough, output. There are many reasons for that. I could make a video just about that topic, but today I just want to raise awareness. I just want you to be aware of the fact that you can only learn to speak English by speaking, and you can only learn to write and produce language by writing, by producing language. Don't wait for that perfect timing of let me study everything I can, learn, accumulate knowledge to finally try to speak, to finally put myself out there in a situation where I will expose myself and talk to people or try to write an email to someone at work. Don't wait for that perfection. Just learn and speak, learn and try, learn and go. MC and I have already talked about that, about waiting for that perfect moment, and it just won't come. We need to learn from our practice too. When we make a mistake, that's also source of learning. That's also source of evolution. It's part of the journey. So that output that is so necessary for you to speak English and produce language can be achieved in many ways. That's why in our videos, we always make a point of including exercises throughout the video so you can listen to us, understand the theory, and already put it in practice right then. I truly, honestly feel like the only way for you to improve your grammar, correct your grammar, improve your pronunciation, start using complex grammar structures that you don't usually use is by practicing and using them. You need the input, but you also need the output. The ultimate item, the cherry on top for this beautiful combination that will get you speaking is finding safe spaces where English is the official language. I have some suggestions for you guys. The first suggestion is creating a WhatsApp group with one friend or many friends, and in that group, English is the official language. You guys can only text each other in English, you can only send audio messages in English. Another idea is to invite people over to your house or to go out to a bar and say, hey guys, today is English night only. This is a safe space for English. Let's practice, let's speak. I wonder why people don't do that more often. I feel like there's a barrier or maybe a fear of making mistakes in front of your friends or people you like. They're your friends, you guys. I really think we should stop and think about that. Why is speaking another language, a second language, something that makes us feel so vulnerable? We should help each other out, you know? That would be awesome. Eat, drink, and be merry. If you don't feel so comfortable just sitting there and you don't know what you're going to talk about, there are a lot of cool games that you can play, like Heads Up, Pictionary, Password, and there are some cool TED Ed riddles that you can try to solve. One can help the other out and you guys can see the answer together. The third thing you can do is similar to the second one, but this time through a video call. Yes, we are in times of social isolation, I know. That's why number 2 doesn't quite work for now, but number 3 does, and it can work even after we're done with this isolation thing. Number 3 would be to have video calls with your friends or with new online friends that you can make in Facebook communities, apps that are created specifically for that purpose of connecting people that want to learn English with one another. This way you can arrange a weekly meeting with that person or with those people and talk about so many things. Imagine, guys, if you have a friend who is a foreigner, someone who is learning English and he's from Thailand, when you're talking to him or to her, you can learn about that culture, learn about the kind of things that person does in Thailand. I know it may seem like a stupid suggestion, but it's not something that I see a lot of people doing. And I feel like it's a simple solution for a problem. I feel that a lot of people feel the only solution is moving abroad or living abroad for a long time. And I feel like the solution is much closer than we think it is. By breaking the walls that we have, I feel embarrassed to speak English in front of my friends. I don't want to make mistakes in front of them or something like that. Why don't we break that and we start putting English in our everyday lives with the people around us? And creating safe spaces for English in your life is like creating a workout routine for your brain. When you watch someone run, you don't get faster. You need to run to be faster. And speaking with friends for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours is an amazing workout exercise for those, those brain connections we talked about at the beginning. When you are speaking, you are recalling so many things at the same time and you are strengthening those connections. We agree then that 1, input is important, but it cannot live alone. It needs its friend, the output. Number 2, speaking is a great way to practice that output. However, is watching classes, trying the active recall technique, and then speaking English enough? Well, some neuroscientists say that there is one more thing that you need to do, which is test yourself. Yes, speaking is a way of testing yourself too. But before that, there is one thing that we need to do, which is exercises, homework. Testing and recall are the best ways to strengthen your brain. Tests, I hate tests. Well, nobody likes tests. But oral exercises and written exercises, as I said, are considered tests. That is why your dear teacher gives you assignments and asks you to try to do something at home, alone. Exactly the same thing you did in class, but now without her guidance. That's me. I always try to do that. Example, after our how to report information video, I left a list of verbs that can be used in reported speech. She said, she remarked, she answered, etc. Plus, I posted a little dialogue, like a fake dialogue, on Instagram stories, and I asked you guys to transform that dialogue into a reported dialogue, like a paragraph, using everything that I had taught during the class. Have you done that? That's the time you will test yourself. If you watched the live and you didn't try to do the exercise, who knows what you learned from those 30 minutes that you spent watching the class. You spend 30 minutes, you don't practice what you learned in those 30 minutes, you may have lost what you learned. Be a good boy or be a good girl and listen to your teacher. If you trust that professional, engage 100% in what they have to tell you. Do whatever it takes. You have a bigger goal. Your goal is not learning English. Learning English is the tool you need to reach that goal, to get a promotion, to get your dream job, to open your business, to do your master's, to get a PhD. Your teacher wants the best for you. You can be sure of that. And I dare you, if you decide to start following the few tips that I gave in this video, you try that for a month and you don't see any results. I don't even have to bet anything because I know you will feel results, you will see results, you will be the result. Just to sum up then, what were the tips that I gave you throughout this video? Number 1, study constantly right after you have a class, right after you watch a video, to consolidate the brain connections and strengthen those brain connections. Don't leave it to the last minute. Number 2, active recall technique. Listen, write down the main ideas, and try to remember those main ideas without checking the text, without watching the video again. Transforming information into knowledge. Do whatever your teacher tells you in terms of homework and exercises, and do it constantly. Don't let it pile up, which means test yourself. And also test yourself by practicing speaking and writing. Make that a habit in your life. And like I said, I dare you. Are you willing to bet? Well, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave your like if you did. Please subscribe to the channel. Follow us on social media. We are on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube, and our handle is Fluent For Real everywhere, so it's easy to find us. See you guys next time. Bye-bye.